Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Peace and Power Media. I'm Henry Hank Green, and today we have a great guest. It's an honor for me to be sitting here today. I'm a member of the Green Party, and today we have our top candidate in New Jersey going with us. She's a very inspirational woman. She's into everything New Jersey, everything about justice and rights, equality, and I appreciate having allies that understand my personal background as an African American and respect the things and see stuff for how society is and how society treats people and how the system is set up in a way that treats people different. And she's been an advocate for justice ever since I've known her for many years now. First, they actually meeting her in person, but we've talked many times and we've seen each other at different events. But it's my honor for our candidate for governor of New Jersey, Ms. Madlyn Hoffman, and she has her side pick right here. My man Barry Bender, the Atlantic City Today, with Atlantic City casino workers petitioning and for the casinos to stop smoking in the casinos. And so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about her run and just want to talk about her in general. Madlyn Hoffman, welcome to Atlantic City. And
thank you, Henry.
hey, tell people who you are, where you're from, and how you got started on this journey.
All right. Well, I'll try to keep it
Know,
very brief.
Keep
right?
it a little synopsis.
Right. All right. So, as you said, my name is Madlyn Hoffman, and I've been around the sun more times than I care to mention. But I've been an activist in New Jersey for the better part of the last 40 years. For the first 20 of those years, I was the director of a group called the Grassroots Environmental Organization. So I was all over the state working with people who were faced with toxic chemical pollution problems. So it would be like an incinerator in Newark or a proposed garbage incinerator in Barry's neck of the woods in Ocean County, which was called Bucky's Burner, nicknamed Bucky's Burner. There were 21 or 22 proposals to build garbage incinerators in the state back in the 80s. And so I worked with communities who didn't want that incinerator in their backyards or at all. I mean, it was not like we used to be called NIMBYs, not in my backyard, by the people who didn't understand what we were doing. It was that we did not want incinerators at all. We wanted reduction of waste, recycling of waste, and composting of waste. So that was the first 20 years of activism in New Jersey. And then the next 20, I was the director of a nonprofit peace organization that's still around. I don't use their name just because they're not political like I am. So,
right.
But they were founded in 1957. A year after I was born.
Huh? That's the year I was founded.
I was founded the year prior.
Uh-oh.
And for those almost 20 years, every day we were fighting against a war. Afghanistan is in the news a lot these days. Our organization in November of 2001 held a march right down Market Street in Newark, opposing that war. We were one of the only organizations, only groups of people to oppose the U.S. attack on Afghanistan, the country, instead of a police action to find Osama bin Laden. If you in fact were the one who engineered the attacks on the World Trade Center. We were not very popular in those days, but that was the only position we could take, which was to, the position of opposing U.S. Military intervention in Afghanistan.
And it's funny, we full circle back here again.
Exactly. And I can say without hesitation that I opposed, I and the group I worked with, we opposed the war then. We opposed Obama when he was considering and then ultimately decided to send 50,000 more troops into Afghanistan. We opposed that. We've been calling for an end to the war ever since it started. And so now that the war has ended, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe. That's our position is we should never have been there in the first place. And so, yeah, if we cared so much about the women, which it is an important issue. But where were we for the last 20 years? We weren't really there to help the Afghan women. And so now, people are using that to say, you can't leave now. You can't leave. What's going to happen to the women?
Right.
Well, we need to do something about the women, but continuing our military presence there is not the answer.
Okay. And so that brings us up to
Well, more or less.
more or less
I'll give you just the electoral side. That was the activist
side.
The electoral side, 1996, I was invited by the Green Party of New Jersey, first off, to run for president because Ralph Nader was running for president. And we didn't know where he was going to run, what states he was going to run in.
Right.
So the initial invitation was to run for president to hold the spot. So, Nader could fill the spot if he decided later to run. And I was in the process of trying to figure out whether me, an activist like this, president, I was trying to figure out what to do when I got another letter. The letter said, nah, we don't need you to run for president because Nader is going to run in New Jersey. And I said to myself, okay, easy come, easy go.
Okay.
I didn't, I wasn't worthy of it then, so that's fine. The next line, so we want you to be our favorite daughter vice presidential candidate and run with Nader. And the organization I was working with at the time thought that would be a great idea. It was the Grassroots Environmental.
So you ran with Nader as his vice president?
For New Jersey.
For New Jersey. No,
New Jersey,
I know.
yeah,
Oh,
96.
wow.
Yeah, 1996.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
And then I ran, after that, we did I think we got over 40,000 votes that year. And I was so excited about running for office. Because, instead of just focusing on environmental issues, which can bring a lot of other issues in, I was speaking out for affordable housing. I was speaking out, on a wide range of issues. So, okay, the Greens need somebody to run for governor. In 1997, I ran for governor. And then in 1998, I ran for Congress, which I don't talk about. And then for 20 years, I was with the peace organization and didn't run for anything. And then in 2018 or 2017, my mom got sick. I thought I needed to step away from the activism for a while and focus on her. And in the beginning of 2018, I got myself into running for U.S. Senate. And then I ran again in 2020, where we got the most of any Green Party running for statewide office since Nader in the year 2000. Because he ran for president as a Green again in 2000, but I was out of the political picture then. So this run for governor now is to build off what we did in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, without any public meetings, outside meetings, all virtual, all word of mouth, all just traveling from one county to the next, and putting forward a message that people in New Jersey are so ready to hear that the Democrats and the Republicans don't work for them. They work for the people with the big money, and we need an alternative political party that really is all about working to build the social justice movement, racial justice movement, economic justice movement, political justice movement, environmental justice movement, all of the above. And
well,
so that's why I'm here.
As a Green Party, a lot of and I'm quite sure you hear the same thing. They tell me basically like my vote as a Green Party doesn't count. Like it takes away from one or the other, and you take away. But you're getting people voting, and you got a flock of people voting over here, where it's not going to do any good. Because what did you say to
that? There's a very simple answer that they don't want to address. It's 3 letters: RCV, ranked choice voting. We bring it in. If people don't know what ranked choice voting is, where you don't just vote for a person, you take all the candidates and you rank how you like them, you know, in what order. And if there's somebody you hate, you don't even give them a number.
Mhm.
Then what happens is when the votes come in, if nobody's gotten more than 50% of the vote, the lowest vote getter drops off, and anybody who chose them for number one, their vote goes to their second choice. So you don't have to worry that saying, hey, if I vote for Madlyn, that might put Charles Manson, you know, in the White House. Okay, I have a second choice, and my vote would go to that person, and it won't help somebody that I really hate. And it also guarantees that the winner of the election will get more than 50% of the vote.
And so we have to do a show strictly on that.
That's a biggie.
Whenever we get a chance to do that, Barry, please come back and we do a show strictly on that.
My answer is similar to that, but well, it talks about even if without ranked choice voting, why a vote for the Green Party is not a wasted vote, and a vote for the Green Party, a lot of people who would come out to vote for the Green wouldn't vote for anybody else. So that's one of the things that we found in going back over election returns, that if you don't have a Green Party person running, there'll be a whole bunch of people staying home. We're not going to vote at all.
And that has been my perspective or my opinion on that. When I ran for mayor here in Atlantic City, it stormed like it never stormed before that day. And that was one of the, I would have did, not to say that I would have won, but I think that I would have done a lot better, because a lot of the people who was going to vote for me would not normally vote anyway.
Exactly.
They chose me because maybe I might be different. They looking because they feel like the system doesn't work for them. The voting period doesn't work. And why would I go out there and vote? But if I did go vote, I probably would go vote for this guy. So all it took was a storm to come for him not to make it easy for him not to go out and vote, period, anyway.
Right.
So those people who and there's so many more people that do not vote.
That's right.
Than the actual amount of people who go out and vote. And sometimes you have to start convincing these other people. If we collectively come together and use our votes and know that there's a third party or someone else that you can vote for, this is how you do make changes. It will work. The system does work if we understand how it works.
Well, and technically, with what you just said, Henry, in order for a Green Party candidate to win at whatever level, we don't need a single Democrat or Republican to vote for us, because there's so many more. There are more independents, registered independents in the state than there are for the two parties combined. So we don't need a single. Let them play in their little playgrounds with their money and their big money. Let them do that. We're building a movement. That's. We don't only represent another vote, another party to vote for, but we're also working to build a movement. We support people who are fighting for affordable housing. I spent time at a shelter for people who didn't have their own home to live in. I spent time in 2020 talking to them, 2018 rather. People fighting for a clean environment, against fracking, or against pipelines, or for universal rent control in the city of Newark, or clean water, getting lead out of the water. These are the people that we're working towards. So even if you don't win the office you're seeking, what you're doing is building strength and movement.
And pushing the narrative.
Yes.
You're pushing and opening the narrative up that they would normally not.
Wouldn't even come up if
you weren't pushing that particular narrative and you wasn't getting attention for a lot of the issues. They got to stay moving with you to catch those the social, the Me Too, the whatever movement.
Right, exactly.
So they want to just jump in just to look like they're doing something when you got Green Party people who actually are living that, who understand the value in trying to help people and make those changes. And what we do is we do change the narrative. I feel like the stuff that I talk about is nothing like the candidates that are running for office.
You want to talk about Dominique?
Oh my goodness!
I know. I met Dominique.
You met Dominique?
Yes, I met Dominique. She's from Ocean Camden or somewhere.
Asbury Park. Asbury Park.
Oh, she's from Asbury Park. Yeah, but I've met her though. I met her in at an event with New Jersey Weed Man and up in New Brunswick somewhere.
Right, well,
And she was powerful.
yeah, she is, and Barry worked really, is working hard on her campaign, but in her main issues were housing, opposing gentrification, moving rich people in and pushing.
And so
poor people out.
Asbury and Atlantic City correlate.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely, they certainly
They
do.
But you know what? The Democrats tried to get her off the ballot.
They challenged our petitions.
Yeah.
We had enough signatures for her to be on the ballot. The Democrats challenged signatures. We spent 6 hours in a virtual courtroom as they went through signature by signature and said, okay, what's the story with this one? Okay, what's the story with this one? They got 13, but we still had plenty for her to remain on the ballot. And even at the end, the judge said, well, you guys might want to retract your challenge so that this goes through quickly. And they refused to retract the challenge. But still, she's on the ballot.
And that's the stuff that people don't like, even in our community, with us as African Americans, we look at the Republicans and they're the starch enemy. And they don't understand that these Democrats are their starch enemy.
I mean, that was a Democrat, you're right.
Because they've trained us over the years that this is the group that they're fighting for us. And,
that's right.
And they hire all the reverends and the clergy and all these other people who are getting something out of it. And they're telling the people, they're not changing the narrative, and that look around you. Democrats control everything in the state.
Yes.
They are the all power.
Yeah.
And if things are not getting done, it's not because of Republicans. They are who they always been. They always want about the money. They don't want no one else to have anything else.
Yep.
You know what I mean? As far as people taking advantage of the government and things like that, even though they are the main ones participating in it.
Absolutely.
But then the Democrats are really controlling everything in New Jersey, right here in Atlantic City. But I want to switch off right to that point right there. Atlantic City. What do you know about Atlantic City as far as what's going on here? I don't know where you at or what you don't know. I know me and Heather and I spoke a lot about the flooding. I live right here. There's floods out here. Even when the bay's empty, if it rains, the whole street floods, and there's no water in the back there. But there's other things, that's on your platform about Atlantic City. What would those three things be?
All right. Well, one thing that we were here for today in Atlantic City was for the casino workers, and because of all of employees, public employees in this state, they're not allowed. They go to work in an environment where smoking is allowed. There was an exemption written into the law many years ago. It remains in the law. During the height of the pandemic, the smoking was prohibited in the casinos, but then 6 weeks ago it came back up. And so we're talking to casino workers today, many of whom are from this area. And they've been 35 years, 40 years, casino workers. They have, diseases and problems sinus problems that stem from smoke in the casinos, and it makes no sense. We're still dealing with this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We're still talking about public health issues, and right down the street here in Atlantic City, casino workers are sitting with their masks on at a table or a gambling table, and everyone else around the gambling table is smoking. There's something wrong with that picture. And it's not, we're not saying don't smoke, people smoke, that's their choice. But inside of a casino, in an indoor space where the workers, the workers mean they should be as important as any worker anywhere else, and not sacrifice their health to some casino magnates.
So is it the Casino Control Commission making this decision? Or is that a state decision?
It was a state law.
Yeah.
They left a loophole in there that says people could still smoke in the casinos, as if the lives of these casino workers is any less valuable than anybody else in the state.
Right.
Ridiculous.
And then the exemption was lifted during the pandemic. And there were stories of people today from the workers talking about for those wonderful months, they were fine. A lot of their sinus issues or other issues, disappeared because they weren't being exposed to secondhand smoke. I'm concerned too. My mom loved to gamble. I didn't, but my mom loved to gamble. And I went into the casino once or twice with her, and I'd see people going in with their oxygen tanks. People want to gamble. They have asthma or emphysema or whatever,
They bring the whole tank.
COPD, and they bring their, and you're allowing smoking in there? So that's one issue. One of the reasons that Heather Warburton is my lieutenant governor, it was my choice for lieutenant governor, is because of what she knows about what's happening here in Atlantic City. In general, I've come down to Atlantic City ever since I was a little one, and I've seen so many changes. And those casinos, I don't know what you think about them, Henry, but they promised a lot to Atlantic City. That this would be a way of building more affordable housing and getting housing that was not to code. Renovating it and money for schools and money for this and that. And my take on it was that it never happened the way it was supposed to.
You're right. It hasn't happened, and up until they needed to take it over. I mean, why else would they take it over? Take over a whole city that's self-containing, functional. You don't need anybody really. It really runs itself at the end of the day, and it just plans on the other things you decide to do. And they just took it over like it's nothing, and no one else cares. What other city would want the state to come and just control and run the things the way that they want? Me personally, I think it's a good take and a bad take from it. Really, you want to be, you don't want no one running your city. You should be able to do that. But we have to elect the right people. We have to have the right mindset of a community to utilize, because Atlantic City is very unique in the type of funding and that comes here. I don't know if there's any other cities in the state of New Jersey who gets a $3 million budget. We're only 13 miles long. We're only 5 blocks wide. So 300 million, for this whole city, 300 million for the school system. It's a lot of money. And then whatever else is going on. So there's a lot of money going on, coming in and out, and you look around sometimes and you're like, well, darn, where is this money going?
Where's the money going?
Right. Who's getting
this
Where's
money?
the money
benefiting
going?
from the money?
And you look at the city, you go on different areas of the cities and the streets and the different things. There's no emphasis on those streets where this goes straight to the casino. Those are nice. You can get those. The lights are on those lights. You got to wait here while this light stay forever because they got to go to and from the casino.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have that problem that where's the benefit at the end of the day? We have all of this money coming in and out, and who's really benefiting from that? When you look at our schools and our children and the resources that we have around here, this should be unlimited. I've been to cities and places where they don't have half the funds that Atlantic City have, but they have way more resources for their children. They have way more prettier parks and things going on at the parks on a regular basis. They have way more of the resources that people are looking for that benefit them, the housing market. We have a lot of, no one have that. That's why they send people down here. We have an abundance of people that are homeless and things like that. And what they do is they send them here. Oh, you're a homeless person, you go to Atlantic City. They'll take you and put you up somewhere, or you can.
But there are these abandoned buildings. We just passed a bunch of them, going from Kennedy Center or Kennedy Plaza, back up to where our cars were parked here. And these some of those buildings have been abandoned for 10 years. I've been told. So if we had a public bank, or if we
that's a good idea.
Where the community could control the monies that you're talking about, and say, well, we need to.
That's a good
we
idea.
Need to renovate that. We as the residents of Atlantic City, we know where that money needs to go, and we're going to sit on a board with other residents of Atlantic City, and we're going to decide how to spend that money so that it doesn't get siphoned off and
Right. They're just taking it, and that's what's happening. A lot of times, the people fed up. They don't know. They don't know what's going on, so they don't understand the politics. They don't understand what's happening. And then you have the politicians or whoever, the people that are in charge, and they're happy with just being in charge.
That's a little bit of, under the chair.
They're just happy with being in charge.
Yeah, yeah.
So the money and all the stuff, they look at it, they're like, well, they ain't doing nothing with it. Huh. They just gonna take it. Well, we'll use it. We'll find a way to spend it because y'all don't have no ideas and plans for what to do with it. And so the state says, well, let us come in and we can figure out.
And who are the state people?
Look at the state.
Do we trust them?
Yeah, come on. We in debt and we can't pay our own bills and we can't budget our own. The state can't budget its own books.
1997, when I ran for governor, then I was running against Christy Todd Whitman and Jim McGreevey, and Christy
was in
Todd,
that one?
yeah, and she was really pushing to raid the pension funds, public employees pension fund, in order to
She the one that really made it. That got us where we
raise the money, exactly, to raise the money that Florio was going to try to raise in taxes. But at least with taxes, you have the money in your bank and you would use it.
Mm-hmm.
For her, the headline, I just heard you say, party now, pay later.
Mm-hmm.
She solved the problem in the moment. And now we're still
then the market went down and all the freaking pensions, and now you can't pay the pensions for the people who worked for years and years and years and deserve the pensions.
Right. So
and that's the question with that pension.
It's like going to Atlantic City with
pensions
and throwing it on the table.
Gambling.
Yeah.
Is there a safer way to use people's pensions to where we can benefit from it on putting the regular secure bank account versus putting it on the market?
If we had a state bank, it could be used to make infrastructure improvements like we were just talking about.
Yeah, the public bank.
So if we had a state bank or a city bank,
right.
You get to control your own funds and watch this risk and based upon what you think it should be.
Right. Everybody would have a seat around the table and would talk about how to spend it. Right now, the story we told about Dominique and her issues are homelessness and housing and against gentrification as well. Why would anybody want to knock her off the ballot? Because, like you said, we're talking about issues that the powers that be don't want us to talk about. But if we had our own bank and we could make our own decisions and so on, that's what that's what we're trying to do, is to create a different way of living in this state, with our 10 key values, public justice, but grassroots democracy also. It's not about some people sitting in an office in Trenton. It's about people on the streets, people who are activists, people who are calling their members of Congress or their state legislators and saying, this woman, another issue for one of the casino workers was this. It's not a state issue. I'm sorry, but I'll just mention it briefly. It's about finding relief for people with ALS. That's Lou Gehrig's disease, right?
Yeah.
And they've been waiting for 10 years for FDA approval of a drug that is supposed to be able to help people in the final stages of ALS. And it's been sitting there. Somebody just, reintroduced the bill in May, and to accelerate access to that. And I asked a couple of people, why isn't it moving? And the one person answered, well, there just aren't that many ALS people, so there's not that much profit in it. And it's like, ooh, that gets me in the gut.
Yeah.
And if it could help one person, and if we could have, as we've been calling for so long, single payer, improves expanded Medicare for all at a state level or a federal level or both, these issues wouldn't go away. They would go away. Yeah, you have an illness, you have access.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to what can help you. That's what we're about as Greens.
And so as Greens, like I was saying earlier, a lot of people don't understand what the Green Party is, who we are. How do we get more access to people seeing us Is that by some of us winning a couple of elections? Maybe like me, when my school board, I'm running for
Yes,
school board.
we'll be here.
One person
Yeah, hey.
wins an election, and he's under that with that group, and then another one. Is that how we're going to have to grow that?
I think that's one way. I was saying to Barry earlier, though, also, that with my close to 40,000 votes as a Green in 2020, I had people on my social media say, "Oh, I saw that you ran for U.S. Senate, in 2020, and I voted for you in 2020. So glad to see you running for governor." So every time we go out there to run, I mean, when winning is the best, obviously, but even just running and getting the name out and passing around phone cards, passing around information about the Greens, speaking with you right now and getting the word out to people. We have 60 volunteers on this campaign. Almost, I would say 50 out of the 60 are in college or high school or under the age of 30 at the outermost, at the oldest level. So this is where the future is, and the present is with these young people who say, when you see this, the flooding here all the time, climate change. Oh my God, they're 17, 18, 19. What's life going to be like here when they're just 25? And Murphy's like, we're going to go to 50% renewables by 2030. And then 100% by 2050. We may not be here by 2050.
Parts of my community definitely will be underwater by 2040.
And by
I live on the
2030,
shore in Ocean County.
in 2030,
2030, the people, I know streets the houses will be, they'll be fishing.
Barry, what does how do we look as far as candidates in New Jersey right now, as far as Greens? How are we looking as far as that?
We've got our ticket for governor and lieutenant governor at the top. We have one candidate who you mentioned, Dominique, who's dynamite candidate, running in LD11. Every place she goes to, the people are coming over and flocking to her, and really unbelievable. I was with her on Saturday in Asbury Park. She's going to be in Neptune next Saturday. I think, she's a dynamite candidate. Of course, our top of our ticket is dynamite also. As you move down from there, the next level down, I'm running for county commissioner in Ocean County. I know the person I'm running against. I ran against him twice for township committee in the town that I live, and I know what he's about, and I can share with people about what he's about.
is he honest?
Yeah.
Is he an honest politician?
Ask about the pipeline he ran in the area where there was gas contamination in the swimming lake. Okay.
Yeah, I was giving you a softball
Yes. No, there's so many things. And then up in Hawthorne, we've got Craig Cayetano running for council at large, and he's made headway in there every time he's run. And now we've got you down here in AC for the Board of Education, and we're gonna get stuff for you and get you going.
Yeah.
Well, I'm loving it. I love it that you guys actually Heather's been my biggest supporter. Candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Heather Worthington. She's our wing person, a wing woman.
Yeah.
And Heather's been very instrumental in having me run and motivate me. Try to encourage me to do even more. I don't know. Sometimes she sees more than what I see. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know.
She's a really inspirational person. And one issue we didn't mention is the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
And how it's been so mishandled.
Like Atlantic City and the casinos, same way.
It's just all about corporate profit. And we had a live stream, Heather and I, and one young woman who owns this black-owned dispensary, or she wants to be licensed.
She wants to be a licensed dispensary.
Right, and she's had her application sitting there for 2 years, and none of the 12 or so licenses that have been given out yet to this point have been given to a black or brown or woman-owned business. This was supposed to be in place in order to right past wrongs, right? The discrimination against people of color for having a little bit of marijuana in their pocket. It's not designed to do that. We need to change it. We need to change it. And it's only people like us who are talking about it. Because, the fighting that's going on either in city council levels, town council
I
levels.
think we have a meeting tomorrow. They have one here for the resolution coming up. Actually, today I was on my way to pick up the packet to read it, and I guess they got something going on with the micro license that they're supposed to be having, and they only what 2,500 or 1,500 or whatever they cost. So I want to know, with those, that's not much. How are they going to divvy out? How many? How are they going to divvy out? What's the things? How is it going to be laid out in Atlantic City? Because, like I said, I was out with Dominique and with Ed Fortune, Weed Man, some other folks, Heather and I, and we went and did these programs against. We was going against the legalization because they have no rules set. I'm like, well, why am I gonna vote for something that the rules are not even established? I'm gonna vote for it, then they're gonna make the rules after I vote for it. That doesn't make sense to me. And then the fact that they saying even with police officers, for me in my experience in New Jersey, officer has discretion. I don't care what you say. He gonna say what he said at that time, and his discretion might be to give you a ticket, or it might be to tow your car, lock you up, and let you figure it out, and let you legally figure it out on your own if you have the capabilities of doing so.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting because in the law that was passed, there's no automatic expungement. So if you have something on your record, if anyone has something on their record for possession of cannabis, marijuana, you have to petition to get your name expunged. So you don't get that off your record. But like you just said, I mean, how many people would be tuned in enough to know that they have to do that, would have the capability to do that, would have the time to do that?
And I'm a pretty capable person, and that would be difficult for me to follow through.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people even know that
They
if they have to do it in order to get off this off their record.
Even the law, many people don't know. Like I had a person say to me that he was telling me that the law was, oh yeah, wherever there's smoking, you can smoke at. You can, where they got smoking at outside, you can smoke. And I was like, well, I don't think that's true. Because you can smoke outside the city hall. There's a smoking section there, but I don't think they'll allow you to sit outside city halls because they got a smoking section out there. And you can pour your marijuana out there. Outside the courthouse, I don't think you can do that. Outside of the school, and you know what I mean? So everywhere where there's smoking at, I don't believe that's, something. So everyone don't have the information and the knowledge to understand, and they might believe and think that. Or you have someone sharing wrong information like that.
Right.
Excuse me. And they share that, and then they think, hold on one second. Michael Scott, how you doing, Michael Scott? We have an interview right now. We were just talking about you. We're sitting here with the Green Party, and I can call you right back. Well, I'm gonna call you right back. All right. That's Mr. Scott running for school board with me. We can't. Right on cue. He must, I told him to call me there. We need to talk. We need to get together and start getting some things straightened out. But I really wanted him to straighten out some things with Barry. So, but now I know all I need is
I'll send that to you.
And then we can set up whenever you guys like to.
We could do a Zoom
and talk
with the Green Council.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
we need to be on our way as well here.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. I'm glad you guys stopped through. This is the first time that we're going to talk. Maybe we'll do some more Zoom interviews. Maybe we'll talk specifically about some things. We'll get Heather in there. We'll get some more. And maybe I can update you and share you on a lot of the different issues on Atlantic City.
Absolutely.
And then you can develop an opinion and a platform or do some investigating into some of those types of things.
I would really appreciate that. And I want to do that.
Okay.
Because Atlantic City is one of the, how to put it, is one of the more well-known New Jersey cities.
All over the country know Atlantic City.
Yeah, and I was just in a place in Colombia, in the country.
I wanted to ask you about Colombia.
In Buenaventura, which is a port city. Atlantic City isn't, but it's on the water. And some of these places that are very well known, you when you pull back the curtain on it, and you see how people are being asked to live or being forced to live.
Or being forced out of where they live.
Being forced out of where they live. Buenaventura is, I want to say 70 to 80% Afro-Colombiano. And I was walking through the neighborhoods and talking to people who had worked at the port and worked for 37, 38, 40 years. Very minimal pension or no pension, no insurance, day-to-day work because the owners of the port don't want to pay a salary anymore. Atlantic City these places that are so well known. You got to peel back the curtain or open the curtains and see what's going on, underneath all of that. So yes, tell me. We should go on and I'll just listen to you. Maybe you, me, and Heather.
Right. We
can just have a live stream on Atlantic City.
Yes, we can do that because she's so well versed on. Like I was asking her about the flooding and things like, and I was the recycling. I'm doing the recycling here in Atlantic City for a time when I was working for the city, and so I was privy to pulling these manholes up, and every manhole you pull, it's nothing but bottles down there. Plastic bottles.
Oh wow!
We used to have a machine that came, they sucked it, but they don't. I don't know what happened to that crew, that responsibility. We don't get that. We don't get that no more. So, what's happening?
All right.
Yes, sir. Green party.
This is great. Have an outdoor interview and everybody passing by is wondering what's going on.
Yeah. So, but that's a beautiful thing. The next time you're here, we'll go to a park. We'll go on the boardwalk, and we'll do the same thing.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right. So it's nice having you today,
Wonderful.
Madlyn Hoffman for governor of the United States. No, governor of New Jersey.
Thanks, Henry.
And Barry Bender,
Ocean County
representative.
County
Commissioner. Let's go.
Yes.
All right, you guys have a good day. This is Peace and Power Media. I'm Henry Hank Green. Everyone have a good night. We'll be back real soon with our next episode. Tune in.